intellectual. Trust is intuition. Faith is the bridge that holds them together. This is why I want people to remember, when you're on your journey of life, spirituality, consciousness, just everyday high school work, whatever, it doesn't have to be anything special. This is why it's important to understand who you are. Because when you walk out into the world and you have a certain belief about something, or you've been taught to believe something, because remember, when your belief is not fact, it's just something that's presented to you until you have more information. Which is why when we talk about the gut intuition and trusting who you are and trusting your voice, it's important because so many people have learned how to lie to themselves so well that when you tell the truth, it sounds like a lie to you. And then a lie sounds like a truth to you. You know what I mean? And I'm laughing, but it's true. You have to learn how to differentiate between the lies you've been told and now you're telling yourself, and now you believe this to be true. And then what gets more dangerous, especially when it comes to, people who are B mindset or B hive, I call it hive mindset, or they start to go further into cultiness. That's when they start to not only take this distorted belief that they've been given, because again, it's been delivered to them through people who look like them, people who show them some sense of love or attention, some sense of affection. All of this stuff is layered. So now they're going to take this belief, it's now ingrained to them because the people around them taught them this, and then they put their faith into it. And that's the bridge you cross to then trust something so wholeheartedly that you're blind to it, right? That's why they say love is blind, because when you're in it, it's literally like a dagger that's just going straight through the flesh. It's just getting straight to the point. So you don't see all the red flags literally around it telling you, go back, this is incorrect, just don't go this way. But because it was such a rush and such euphoria, your body liked the high of this situation that you might not normally be in if you have learned how to listen to your emotions and listen to your body. And if your gut intuition says, this doesn't feel right. There was just something that I was just writing about the other day where I talk about butterflies and anxiety. They're similar, but they're not the same. And I do get frustrated when people try to take away from the feeling of meeting someone for the first time and you're excited about them and love and gooiness and all that, right? There is a sense of excitement that feels just like anxiety. Like you get the bubble guts, your heart starts racing, you start, oh my gosh, like that's excitement. That's okay to have. Now, do you want to be so excited that you go into limerence and then you start obsessing over this person? That's, again, the fine line. Everything in life is a teeter-totter, and you just have to learn to walk it and stay balanced where you need to stay balanced. Every single thing. That's why you can be 100% over here and 50% over there and 25%. It is possible. We are multidimensional beings, which is why it's important to not let other people come and tell you what is true for you. Again, when you believe something, like I just actually wrote something earlier where I said, I believe you, I just don't trust you. And I'm thinking, I was like, what does that mean to me? And it's like, I can believe the facts that are presented in front of me, but facts are only tangible things that are presented. There's a pencil on the table next to a piece of paper. There's a door that says open. That one says close. These are things I have to choose to believe because they're literally in front of me. And even then, it could be an illusion, right? We have enough technology now that things look real, they're not real. So I have to trust my ability to decide what is true and what is not. Oh, that pencil, it was actually a sticker. That piece of paper, it's a painting. The closed door, it's not even a door, right? I'd go to the open door, which actually opens something. It seems simple, but sometimes when you're going through deduction and you're trying to figure out life and you're trying to make decisions based on what feels right for you, you do get lost in the translation of, do I trust this? Or do I just want to believe it because everything and everyone else is saying it's true? Learning how to recalibrate, when we talk about recalibrating your emotions, rebirthing your emotions, rewriting your brand, rethinking about your script that you want to tell, not just the story that people are telling you to tell. That means doing emotional work. I see people talk about emotional intelligence, they think it means that they can read someone else's emotions better than someone else's. That's part of it, but the main part of emotional intelligence is how do you self-regulate yourself? How are you listening to yourself? If you get a new piece of information come in, how do you react? Do you overreact? Do you underreact? Do you become super melodramatic? Or you just don't care? You're just detached, you're cool, aloof, right? This is what emotional intelligence means. How do you filter stimuli outside of you, environment outside of you that you have no sense of control over? This is why I say you have to be very careful about who you believe and trust when it comes to your journey. Remember, you can only have faith in your own journey. Only you know the path that you're taking. But if you don't believe in it and you don't trust in it, then anybody can come along and tell you anything and you'll believe them and you'll trust them because you want to, because you are yearning for a sense of purpose. Why do you think there's so many people, especially in movies, I don't know if they call them incels or something, or people who are easily, not say manipulated, but easily swayed, right? Because they don't have the friends, they don't have the family, they don't have the funds, whatever the case may be. They will convince themselves that being part of an organization or a group of people is better than being alone. That's how heavy the feeling of isolation and being alone is to someone. Remember, isolation is not bad, it's just a thing. If you being isolated makes you depressed, if you being isolated makes you upset, as it should, again, we're social beings. I'm not saying you should be okay with just being isolated forever, but when you're by yourself, by choice, momentarily, you should be okay and not having anxiety over what's happening next and who's gonna do this and all. None of that really matters because again, you're not listening to yourself, you're not self-regulating. Even for myself, there's a little test I like to do. Like, I'm used to compartmentalizing and thinking about everything inside of my head and the whole ideation process of like, this is how I would do it, and I piece it together, and in my world, everything's perfect. But then when I try to vocalize it or speak it into truth, sometimes it's not articulated correctly. This is why we talk about clearing the throat chakra. Again, it's not about actually clearing about negative things as far as what you say. No, it's more about learning how to use your tool, your vessel, when needed, right? There are moments in time where you should have said no, or you should have said yes, or you should have said, that's not for me, right? Think about your life. There's a lot of moments where you could have been like, I could have missed that moment. You still had to experience it to learn what it felt like to now look for that thing that you know you don't want to go back into, right? Because that's the huge difference. Again, if you experience something, let's say skydiving, sure, I'm never doing it. But God bless your heart, who does? Let's say you go skydiving and your parachute works the first time, great. Now you believe that it's fun, it's safe, you're fine. Let's say you did it for your 100th time. You've been skydiving 100 times and every single time it was perfect. That is literally understanding that I believe that skydiving is safe. That's a belief. It can't be anything more other than that. In order to be something, you have to open the door to something. So the door is walking through into, I believe that this is true now because I've done it so many times. That's my proof. That's my discernment. Now let's say you go on a skydiving trip and out of all those 100 times, on the 101 time, the parachute didn't open and you're freaking out and your life is passing before your eyes because you're thinking, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, I've done this so many times. I can't. Even in that moment of falling, you can freak out or you can accept it, right? And usually in panic, you're not thinking. You're just fearful of what's going to happen in the end. Have anxiety about what's going to happen in the end. That's what belief is, because you don't actually have the full truth yet, right? Now, at some point, you're falling, your body's just going to relax. You're going to get used to it. I don't know if this is fact or truth. I'm speaking this from a place of what I feel is true in situations where I've been in where, like I was driving a car, almost crashed. When it was happening, freaking out wouldn't have stopped me from going over into a ditch. It was already happening. So at one point I just said, take the wheel. Seriously. I literally was like, Lord, just get me through this. And took my hands off the wheel. Not a scratch. So in the same analogy, you're falling, descending, you just stop fighting it. And then you remember, oh yes, my emergency backup. You know, you fly down to safety. Now in this moment, you've had a little bit of trauma, right? Now take this trauma and you add it to what you believe is true based on your environment. And then you take your trust, your intuition of what you experienced, and you put them all together, and then you got a human being. That's a human. And that's why no one is perfect. That's why nothing on this journey will be perfect and nothing will ever make sense. As much as we want it to make sense, it won't, because we only understand what's in front of us. It's just pure fact. Yes, there are moments where we have imagination and we can think beyond things that are beyond us, but again, there's going to be an end result of, I can only go so far. Until I have tangible proof, I can't prove it. I just have to have faith in it. And that's why I said the faith is the bridge, because a bridge is not always going to feel safe. You know what I mean? A bridge is not always going to feel sturdy. So sometimes when you're crossing that bridge, yeah, you could fall, but that's what faith is for. It's shaky, but it's strong. And you sometimes got to get you just really put belief enough in your faith that you trust it's meant for you, and you'll know what's meant for you. I find myself that when I do this vocal exercise where I'll say something out loud that I normally think on the inside, and it feels shaky in my throat, that means it needs to be let out. That means that I don't believe that about myself yet. Things that I believe are completely true based on what I've experienced, I say it with confidence. No hesitation, no stutter. But when I say something about myself that I truly know is vulnerable, or something that I genuinely want, if it's shaky in my voice, my body doesn't believe it because of what it's been through. And that's the part where it's like, I can't keep choosing to believe that what I went through is all I am. It's a piece of who I was. And now I'm this new person, and I get to be this new identity anytime I want, and I keep adding to it and upgrading to it all the time. And that's where you start to learn how to trust in a healthy way. That when someone comes into your life, that they're not there to destroy you. And if you get a new opportunity, it's not gonna fall apart as soon as you leave the old one. Even if you hated the old one, think about a job. You can hate that job, never loved that job, but been there 10 years because it's stable, right? You find a new job that you love and you really want, and you take it, but you're scared because, well, what if they fire me? What if? You thought the same thing with that job you hate now. Years later, you're like, why am I here? Because one day you were excited and applied and you actually were happy about going to work. Everyone's been there. Might last a day, might last 2 weeks, I don't know. But again, understanding how to learn how to listen to your body is the key to all of this. So again, whether you believe it, whether you trust it, whether you think it's a lie, know your truth so that when you hear the truth, your body recognizes the truth and it trusts it instantly, versus you blocking your truth, lacing it with somebody else's reality of a lie, so that when you try to meet your own frequency, it gets blocked because you're not living in your truth. So this is why I say it's important in the soul spiritual realm, is that you have to go back and do the ancestor work. You have to go back and do the childhood work. You have to go back and do it all. You don't have to live there, but you have to do it. You have to go experience it, look into it, understand yourself, the history of your parents, the history of your grandparents, the history of your culture, the history of your neighborhood. It helps because all that energy is still there. It's still a frequency. It's still alive. That's all culture is. That's all anything that we do that we call ours is repetitive behavior that people before us felt a semblance or something to, good, goofy, other, and we just keep mimicking it over and over and over, and we put reverence on it. You can do the same thing for your own beliefs and your own emotions and your own trust in self. So again, this journey is not always going to make sense. It's not always going to be easy, but again, learning how to listen to the truth and being able to recognize the truth, because when you yourself stop lying and you only speak truth, you will only filter life through truth. It's impossible to filter it through anything else, which is why people can love and hate you, right? There's people who literally, they're like, well, why do the good guys or why do the bad guys always seem like they're winning? Because there's so many people lying that the lie becomes their truth, not the truth, their truth. And so then they live that reality and they get the benefits and the rewards of living in that reality. And the majority of the people are living in that surface reality of the rewards and everything they believe they're getting. And yeah, it's easy to stay on the side of lying and hatred and whatever else because it's a quick fix, like fast food, literally. Things that take time, love, things that you have to grow, you gotta plant a seed, things that are of the universe, spirit, God, whatever you wanna call it. It takes time. Trust me. Even if my life, I had to realize that there's some of us who literally we came here to get it all in the beginning and lose it just to experience it. There's some of us who came here and never had it. Some of us who had it the whole time. And some of us who literally didn't have it, but will get it later because we put in the work. However that looks for you, it's your journey. Those are all gateways, right? Think of them as doors and staircases going off to different paths. Which one you choose is the one you choose. And in that journey, you're going to continue to keep choosing many journeys. But the main thing is learning that how you choose to, again, take what you learn and take what's around you and make it your truth is always going to be interpreted differently through someone else's lens. You're never going to make sense to everyone. So you have to speak to those who are willing to listen and are open to your frequency. That's why I know for myself, I used to get frustrated when I would talk about spirituality and consciousness and people would be like, oh, this hippie woo-woo stuff and everything else. And I'm just like, I don't understand, what's the problem? Until I met someone who was much deeper in the sauce than me. And it was like they were speaking a whole different language. Yeah, man, the stars are aligned with my chakras and this and that, and transcendental medicine. I'm like, what? What are they talking about? Just talk regular. But that's the point of it. It's, again, everything we do is a spectrum. So you can be in the polarized spectrum of doing too much or doing too little. And in the middle is when you're doing just enough. So again, treat life as a game of teeter-totter. You gotta just learn how to balance yourself. You gotta learn how to walk through any situation unnerved. Yes, you will be nerved sometimes. You will get agitated, and it's okay to express that emotion too. But depending on the emotion and the situation, determine how long that emotion and that situation needs to last, if you know what I mean, okay? Don't let a bad attitude ruin a whole day. Remember, if somebody says, they had a bad day just from one moment and there's like 18 hours left of the day, I'm like, you had a bad moment, not a bad day. Your day is not over. So anyways, I hope all this makes sense. Sometimes I just have these moments where I'm sitting and just thinking about stuff and I'm like, oh, okay, that's a message. And what I'll do is I usually write a blog. You know, it always starts as a blog. So if you go to my website, you'll see that Writer's Block is my blog. And those are just there for me and for anybody else who wants to read them, but they're just expressions of ideas that I have. And I'm just like, oh, okay, I want to write about that. And so this one started out as a blog, which I still have to post. And then it turned into a short, which I was like, okay. And I was like, you know what? I can turn this into a video. So I hope that you guys appreciate the message for what it is and what it's worth. As always, oh, sorry, it's so hot here. I want the volume to be good. I have fans, but when I have them on, it drowns out the whole sound. So for y'all who understand, I got air conditioning too, but it's gonna be too loud. So when you don't have a studio, you gotta do what you can, right? But anywho, as always, thank you for checking me out. Come back and watch more videos. There's a library. I have different lists that you can go for. Just all of my stuff, I want it to be organic. So if you ever just want to go binge watch me, do it. I would love it. Anywho, as always, check me out on epicity.org, where you can find blogs, services, merch, everything in a one-stop shop. As always, I love you. Have a good day.